Speaker, notice that the entire proposition case is literally based on a mere assertion that families are bad because you didn't choose them. There's no actual structural analysis as to why a family's relationship is likely to be bad. They have not explained why it is impossible to have healthy communication between you and your parents or your siblings, or why family values are so important to parents that they would prioritize them over the well-being of their child. There is a gaping hole in their case, which means that they fail to meet the burden of proof under their side, and they have to fill that hole in their next speech. 2 points of setup and clarification before I move on to my refutations. First, this debate doesn't happen in edge cases. So this debate can only take place fairly when we're discussing about the average family. We're not talking about dysfunctional or abusive families which leave you, because that is an unfair burden to push. I think the example they gave about how a family would push their kid to undergo conversion therapy is probably a toxic family with horrible communication, and proposition has been playing in the worst case scenario, and they need to engage with other contexts as well. Secondly, this debate is about comparing the merit of association by faction and by blood fairly. So our stance would be that we would deprioritize our relationships with friends and side with our family, like our parents and our guardians. So therefore, our burden in this debate is to prove why association by blood creates a better quality of relationship. How are we going to define better? 3 metrics. First, having the closest and strongest bonds for having a reliable support system. And second of all, having a sustainable relationship that provides growth for individuals. Before I move on to my arguments though, 2 points of rebuttal. Firstly, on the notion that if you go against family values, you'll be left out. Firstly, we'd argue this cuts both ways. Notice panels that fractions doesn't actually mean you'll be grouped like in the divergent, where you're tied by qualities like your bravery, because that's just unrealistic. I think it's probably just going to be people who share the same hobbies or passions as you, or believe in the same political ideology, for example. We'd posit that all of these values are fleeting. So that is to say that you can change your beliefs, your friends can change theirs. So at the point at which this happens, you're going to lose the people around you. Why family is comparatively better then is because in most families, even if your values are different, there is still strong bonds and a visceral connection built over years with you. And that means they're much more likely to stick with you. And this is crucial because it means that family is built on shared experiences, not just fleeting values. Moreover, it is exactly because of the birth lottery that they mentioned that, like, usually parents in the status quo feel that they have an obligation to still accept their kids, because most parents understand that children didn't consent to be born and therefore they have to treat them well. So it means ultimately family bonds are stronger. Secondly, I want to engage with their argument on cohesion. We believe that in the status quo, there are different family dynamics. There are many families which listen to you, especially with the development of modern family values, which are highly prevalent in the status quo. So this looks like narratives and social media posts, which tell others to embrace their families. Secondly, I think in the majority of families, there is communication purely because of the fact that you've spent the most amount of time with your family and you literally know these people for all of your life. So this looks like you from a young age confiding your secrets or telling them what happened at school or what's happening in your job. And we would say that your family always helps you in these scenarios, and therefore there is trust to confide and share your issues. Lastly, though, we would say that their argument on being representative of your identity is probably going to be a harm and stifles your personal growth. We're going to explain this in our second argument. With that being said, 2 arguments coming from the opposition. Firstly, why does association by blood give a stronger support system? And second of all, why does association by faction stifle individual growth? Firstly, then, why does association by blood give a stronger support system? 3 layers of analysis under this. First, what is the unique merit of association by blood, which makes the bond stronger? Your family members are the ones who raised and nurtured you from the beginning of your life. They were the ones who put your diapers on and put the food on the table and paid for all of your expenses. They've known you for as long as you've lived. So the bond you have from seeing and talking to each other for your whole lives means that you have countless shared experiences, like literally your first memories, and you grew together. So these are all things that make a strong bond. Comparatively though, friends are individuals which you just met for a couple of years. There's a lack of that shared experience, and therefore we would say the bond is weaker. Secondly then, why is association by faction largely unsustainable and unpredictable? The first thing to say under this is that the values you associate with are fleeting. So the values that are held in these communities are usually values that can easily change. These are political views, for example, which can shift with every election and every campaign. Or, for example, if you associate yourselves with individuals who share the same passions, such as debating, those are also fleeting passions. So that is to say that as time passes by, individuals can discover other things that they like and move on and focus on those things more. They can gradually stop talking to you and doing those activities with you, so you lose your support system. And this means that the only thing holding your relationship are fleeting values. Comparatively, as I outlined earlier, family bonds are much stronger, built on years of a visceral connection, and therefore more likely to stick with you. Secondly, then, why are friends unreliable support systems? Two things to say under this. First, they have their own issues within their lives. So that is to say that they also have their own issues to prioritize. The crucial line of analysis here is that we have limited passion capital to spend on others. We have there are certain things that we care about because we think that they're more important and we need more attention than other things on our list of priorities. Other individuals' lists are probably going to change over time. They're going to find new friends. They might have their own issues within their families or their relationships, and you're going to be deprioritized. So this is where we flip their argument and say that friends are a support system, that they're unlikely to prioritize your issues, and therefore family is much more reliable. Comparatively though with family, your parents, for example, were the ones whom you confided your issues in for most of your life, and they're used and accustomed to helping you as much as they possibly can, and you're bounded by stronger bonds. Secondly, though, family problems are shared. Because of the bond shared between family members, individuals feel like they have a moral obligation to help each other. When one family member has an issue, it's not considered their individual issue, but rather an issue that everyone chips in on. So even as adults, parents will always try their best to help children, whether it be through emotional support or paying for their medical expenses or their college expenses. So don't let proposition fool you by saying that responsibilities are only for you to help your family. It also cuts the other way around. So ultimately, this shows that family is a reliable and strong support system. Second argument then on how this stifles individual growth. The premise of this argument is simple. Your growth as an individual will be stunted at the point where your circle is an echo chamber which only affirms your values. The crucial piece of framing under this argument is that not all values that you get are actually positive. This debate happens mostly in young individuals, so individuals who are around 20 or 30. And that ultimately means that their identities aren't fixed yet and are easily influenced by friends in their surroundings. That is to say that there is a possibility that they get bad friends who spread bad values or show bad actions. Why then does this stifle your growth? Association by faction are the people who you chose to associate with, specifically because you share the same habits or share the same views like political ideology. You're going to be in an echo chamber where everyone affirms your values, even if they're negative. So even if you're doing something bad, so for example, if you're doing drugs, those people will still support you. You will never change, you will never grow. And when the people around you always agree with you on everything, whether it's bad or good, you need someone to tell you what the best thing for you even if it's a tough pill to swallow. This is where association by blood comes in. Your legal guardian, your parents, siblings have the incentive to see you become the best person you can be. It doesn't mean you agree completely with their opinions because you didn't choose them, but because they aren't yes men who just agree and affirm every single action that you do, they will try their best to ensure that you become the best version of yourself. So because we give stronger relationships, because we're the side that helps individuals grow as a person, I beg you to oppose.